2020, all GCSE and A-level examinations were cancelled in England and Wales due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, Ofqual was tasked with creating an algorithm to predict GCSE and A-level grades for students. The approach they used to achieve this is outlined in more detail in the case study section, but in brief, the historical performance of students from a previous cohort within a subject and centre is used to help build the distribution of the predicted performance of the 2020 cohort within that same subject and centre. As well as using historical data for previous cohorts, the current students' performance in previous qualifications was also used to help build the model. The students' performance in previous qualifications is referred to as their prior attainment. At GCSE level, the prior attainment is taken from the individual's examinations that they took at the end of Stage 2, called their SATs. For A-level students, the prior attainment is taken from the student's performance in their GCSEs. However, what if a student did not have an observed measurement of their prior attainment? For example, if a student previously studied abroad, they might not have a UK-based qualification and hence do not have a value for their prior attainment. Or alternatively, if a student had changed their name between the examination that was used to calculate their prior attainment score and 2020, and could therefore not be matched in the record. If there were no prior attainment values for all students within a subject and centre, or a high proportion were missing within that subject and centre, the predicted distribution for the 2020 cohort is based on the distribution of grades from previous cohorts. If a small proportion of students did not have a prior attainment value within a specific subject and centre, an additional weighting towards the distribution of grades from previous cohorts within that subject and centre would be incorporated into the algorithm. In other words, the algorithm assumed that the missing prior attainment values followed the same distribution as the observed prior attainment values. But what if this was not the case? The values may have been missing due to a factor that would affect the individual's GCSE or A-level grade that the algorithm is predicting. Overseeing this aspect can add biases into the predicted grades for individuals who do not have matched data for previous qualifications. For example, let's consider a student who changed their surname or name between sitting their GCSEs and their A-levels in 2020. It could be a significant event for a student to change their name or surname. It may be that this individual is around the age of 18 when they are sitting their A-levels, in which case the name change has occurred at quite a young age. Has this change that occurred to them to result in a name change affected their academic performance positively or negatively? Alternatively, perhaps the student took several years out after their GCSEs before returning to studying their A-levels as a mature student. Now, has this change that occurred to them to result in a name change affected their academic performance positively or negatively? An individual's prior attainment score may also be missing if the student did not sit the examination that was used to calculate the prior attainment. One example where this may occur is if a student previously studied abroad and did not sit SATs or GCSEs. This situation depends on the student, not on how previous years at their school have performed. Their situation depends on where they have travelled from and studied previously. Was there data that could their data have been brought into consideration from their previous examinations from when they studied abroad before? Should the data scientist be looking into that extra data to understand the individual? Or is it okay to ignore that? These are the types of questions that the data scientist should consider, because ignoring that is a choice that can cause unethical results. Finally, in the UK, independent schools can choose whether their students sit SATs examinations or have any formal examination. Hence, a GCSE student at an independent school who was at an independent school in year 6 may not have a value for their prior attainment score. However, the distribution of grades is not the same between independent and non-independent schools. Say an individual studied at an independent school which did not sit any formal examinations in year 6. This individual then has a missing prior attainment score. The GCSE grades that they are then given by the algorithm depends on the performance of previous cohorts. Their personal situation is not taken into account, and this highlights the unethical nature of this whole process.